Welcome back to Metal Heroes Review, episode number 48. We are finally on another Metal Hero series. And it's the first one, not Space Sheriff. That's all done. For now, anyways. There's actually a few movies left to go for that. But I plan to cover those movies when I get the Sentai basically he crosses up with. But for now, we're on our very first standalone Metal Hero series. What do I mean by that? Well, everybody who appears in this series only appears in this very series. Nobody appears outside of this thing. They don't appear any team-ups in the future. Nothing. Next time anybody would see these people was when they popped up on VR Troopers. Well, the footage of these people anyways. This is basically the series. This was the 6th ever Metal Hero series ever released in 1987. Choujinki Metalder. Metalder. Yes. This was released in 1987, which, wait, 1987, wasn't there a Commander series and a Sentai series for like the same year as this one? Yes. Yes, there was. Commander Black, but that was released later on in the year, and also Masked Man. Yep, Masked Man. Now, the first episode of the show was released on March 16th, 1987. I think Masked Man made his debut at the same period of time. I believe so. Yes. So, now, here's the thing about this one. Now, I'm not going to show what exactly the main character looks like because people have seen him already. If you're curious, wear VR Troopers. As a matter of fact, this is the suit that Ryan Steele wore on the show. Yep. As for his companions, they're not... The companion suits, they're not from the show. They're from a completely different show. I gotta say, the suit actually looks really good. Now, I did a little research about this series. Well, based on info. Now, this series is sadly only 39 episodes. It is the only series that is lower than the 40 episode count. It's the only one to reach this far. I have heard the reason why that the show basically did well, and apparently it was canceled at that point due to low ratings. But from what I've read, they did conclude the story at the very end. So, excuse me. Some might think, why was the show canceled? Why did it last 39 episodes? The dark tone. That was the reason why. Some people didn't like the dark tone of the series, and that was a turnoff. I'm thinking, wait, this is the same year we had Commander Black, a really good series. Despite its dark tone, it was still very popular. Masked Man, good series. I like that one. So, the series' very first episode starts off with this Dr. Ko, where he's a scientist. He arrived home from the United States. He has arrived back in Japan, and he visits his son's grave. Apparently, this was his only son, who died back in World War II. And he explains his little secret that he did, and then we cut to the main villain of the series, where we see him in his human form. Yes, he has human form. Yeah. When I get to him, let's see. Let's see. His name is Gozo Katharia. Yep, that's pretty much his name. And here's a fun fact. This guy was on... Well, this is the same guy who I just watched him in the Next Generation Metal Hero series. Yeah, this is years prior to that. He had just probably come off being on Denzi Man at the time. Yes, I believe so. This is the actor. This was Senjuji Todo. Great actor. Yep. And then now, those of you familiar with his counterpart in VR Troopers, yes, when he transforms, he becomes God Neros. That's his name. You see, his counterpart in VR Troopers is Carl Zector, who is the owner of Zector Industries. He's a cruel man who has a lizard. In this series, he doesn't have a lizard. Now, those who are familiar with it, now you might think, okay, who is the counterpart of this guy? The ultimate form, the main form? That is Grimlord. Yes, the main bad guy of the VR Trooper series. Who basically had it where a computer in Season 2 was the main bad guy of Space Share Cider. Yeah. Here are the comparisons between him. Now, apparently, he's the counterpart between, like, here's the thing. So, leader of an empire, leader of virtual reality. There was something later on, and in VR Troopers, he survived. In this one, I'm not going to spoil it. So, his base operations in this show, in VR Troopers, is known as the virtual dungeon. Here is known as the Ghost Bank, where the Neros Empire, that's your main bad guys for this series, have their base, and they're led by 4 different armies: Armored, Robot Warrior, Monster, and Armnet. The Armored, or the Yari Army, they're led by Vicious Saint Colgan. The Robotic Warrior Army is led by Victorious Saint Boski. Now, what was his counterpart of Paratroopers? Zelton. In the case of the Armored one, Victorious Saint Colgan, his counterpart in VR Troopers is Decimator. The Monster Army is led by Victorious Saint Gouldling. His counterpart in the Power Ranger in VR Troopers is Toxid. Yeah, but he doesn't show up here. He kind of is here, but he doesn't do any fighting per se. And then there's the Armament Army. Yep. They're led by Victorious Saint Dragner. Yep. And his VR Troopers equivalent is Blue Bear. Oh yes, that is his name. Blue Bear. How original, Helm Saban. Yeah. So, he also has the secretaries. Which, yes, there are no Zolto secretaries in VR Troopers. Here, they're referred to as Beautiful Secretary K and Beautiful Secretary S. K is played by Yoko Masushi. Not much is known about her. As for S is played by Emiko Yamamoto. I gotta say, the women look very beautiful. I got at least gonna hand to basically the title. Yeah. Though, of the two of them, S looks definitely Asian. But in the case of K, she doesn't look that Asian per se, but she looks pretty close to it. I'm not gonna criticize basically how they look, but yeah, I can buy basically S being Asian, or at least Japanese. But K, well, by looking at her face, she could be Hispanic. My guess is the actor must be biracial. That's my guess. Yep, so the plan is now, the opening scene of this episode, I'm like, did VR Troopers use the same scene, just swapped out the vehicle here? Because here's what happened. So, Dr. Koga, that's actually Koga, Ritoru Koga drives someplace with his driver, and the driver, no name, he just dies thanks to attack by one of the robots. And like, okay, the guy was like, I want all of you to kill this one human. Yes, sends out all of his forces to kill one person. And the reason? We'll get to that. So then, of course, his car explodes. He's wounded. And they manage to get to a cave, which they say was the former headquarters of the Japanese army. This cave. Okay? And then he goes inside this very futuristic lair, which, yes, this is the same lair that was seen in VR Troopers. Like, virtually the same place. I mean, I'd say the only main change they made, they had the one screen there. And we see on our table our hero. And now here's the thing. This is an android. Yep, our hero is an android. Not a human wearing a metal suit. Oh no, we have a freaking android here, known as the Super Android. And for some reason, despite being built in the 1940s, he is dressed like someone who lives in the 1980s. This was weird. By the way, there's also a dog here too. I'll talk about him in a minute. So he wakes up, he tells him his name, and oh yeah, to give him elevation, he goes and gets killed by one of the monsters. And then he transforms. All he just says in his head is anger, and then he transforms. In VR Troopers, it's a tiny little device that it's like, they do like, we are VR Troopers, and then they transform. The device is basically the size of my hand. It's something you can wear around your neck. You're like, really? Yes, really. That's how they transform VR Troopers. So, he goes out, battles some monsters. He does not know what he's doing. He ends up basically into a fight with the secondary antagonist of this series, where he loses thanks to a shoulder wound. Yep. So, he would not fight him again from what I read into episode 19. So, quite a while. He spends a lot of time on the base. So like the very next episode, so I think has sort of been wounded. He's not defeated. So he goes back to the HQ, gets the shoulder fixed thanks to some, and we also see the debut of Stinger. Who is Stinger? A talking robot dog. Who is a German Shepherd. Yes, seriously, a German Shepherd. Which, yes, did this make it over to VR Troopers? Yes. This is Jeb in VR Troopers. Yep, that's who Jeb is. Except that one was a completely different dog. This is basically a German Shepherd. And he looks way different. Oh my gosh, he looks so different. Jeb is basically like a normal dog who just talks. Let me show you what the dog looks like, because it is a bit weird. Here we go. And you're like, really? This is what the dog looks like. I am not kidding about that. It seriously looks like this. Oh, Springer. This is Springer. Yep, and that's what the dog looks like. Yeah, it looks like either a Rottweiler or a German Shepherd, and this is the dog who speaks. Though it kind of sounds like that in between episodes they change, who voices him. So, yeah, so then, of course, basically, then Ryusu wants to explore the human world. So he goes out seeing some animals. And then he comes across a woman. A very beautiful woman named Mai Ugly. I think that's how you pronounce her name. Yes. Which, I saw this coat that she is wearing. And I'm like, did Caitlin Starr from VR Troopers wear the same coat at one point? I think she may have at some point. Maybe. But yeah, I think I remember her basically one of the images I saw her in from the show. I think she did at some point wear this outfit. Yeah. And she is a photographer. Yes, a photographer. You think, wait, a female lead character who's a photographer, which, yes, not Black, but Black RX did this, like, basically the following year. Yep, so, and this is in episode 2, we're introduced to Springer and Mai, and then we have the very first fight. Yep, where basically Ryushi fights one of the monsters. Let's see. And he gets kind of destroyed, then he gets kind of supposedly gets scrapped, but he gets remodeled in the next episode. I'm trying to find him here. Let's see. He fights in episode 4. Oh, it's an explosive fighter Gonchik. Yeah, he's basically his first opponent. And he basically nearly overloads Metalder's brain while fighting. Yeah, he basically knocks up a shoulder pad, knocks up his head. And I think this is also the first time he uses his laser arm. Yep, first time he uses to decapitate this one robot. He falls over and nearly snaps, gets neck snapped. He does end up killing another monster in the episode. Well, supposedly anyways, but he gets rebuilt, don't worry. He ends up defeating explosive fighter Demon. Yeah, basically fights him. Yeah, it's like every episode except for 5. So basically 2 and 3 have this where we have 2 armies have their best fighter and they fight each other, and the winner gets to fight Metalder. Of course, he wins and he fights him, and then he gets defeated. And his boss is like, "Yeah, we're just gonna model him, bring him back later. So like I'll take responsibility." So then, of course, like, he gets sort of, like, see, he touches her lips, gets her, basically, her business card, that comes to play for the next episode, and he just disappears because basically a monster appears. So, then the very next episode is noteworthy for 2 things. Number 1, Mai finding out he's an android. They explore this a little more in episode 4. Yeah, thanks to Ben K, who comes in. Yeah, he's basically sent to kill him. And he ends up fighting him in his human form. He ends up basically slicing his leg. And he fights him, and then he beats him, but does not kill him. And they fight over the fact that he basically tried to take a rabbit hostage. Yep, that's the reason why. So he ends up being he beats Ben K, but doesn't kill him. Nope, he spares his life. And Ben K is not seen again for quite a while after this. So, and then we have 4 people sent out to kill. Then we have, they explain that, that he came back to Japan, like a lot of stuff we show here. We have, whenever God Necro shows up, it's like, okay, so the way it works is this, like, he wants to go visit his minions, so, excuse me, in VR Troopers, it's like, he touches an orb and says, "Transform me, take me back to my virtual reality." Here it's like, "Cover the room in the darkness of night." And then you see him transform like he does in VR Troopers. And he gets transformed to his base. He sits on the same throne like he does in VR Troopers. Oh, and in case you're curious, though, it's the same footage basically when they have all these four generals come out to how should I put this? The four generals come out basically making introductions. Yeah, it's the same thing. So in episode 4, we have Violent Spirit Ogmus. Yeah, he's out to fight. Basically, because we all celebrate his birthday. And we also see Violent Spirit Top Gutter. Yep. There is also a character who debuted just in the first episode. Violent Spirit Kubo. And the fourth one is a squid monster. Yes, a squid monster. Who ends up fighting him? It is... If I can find him here. Let's see. It's a heroic fighter Gomelin. So he works for the top fighter, and of course, basically, like the four are sent out to basically to kill him, and of course he wants to go. Well, basically, they do chat about it briefly next episode, Metalder and Mai. So then they decided to do research on, of course, his creator. When he mentions who created him, he's like, "Oh, the famous robot scientist? I know who he is." And of course, he doesn't mention that he's actually dead. So basically, he reads like he's freaking. Now, my guess is I do have a theory of why that he decided to make an android. The theory I have is that Data was popular in Star Trek at this period of time. So, well, of course, they had Data on Star Trek. So, why not have Metal Heroes? I guess figured out why not. Except let's let him not be emotionless like Data is. Let's have emotions. Okay, so he reads a lot, and like, oh, and he shows up. Oh, this is the world basically the way Japan was when I was first created, and it's images World War II, which I'm sure Mai was not very comfortable looking at that, but him it doesn't really bother him very much because even though this is the world way the world was when he was first created, it doesn't bother him as much as maybe Mai because maybe she knew people who got killed in World War II, presumably. And then, of course, they go to the beach. Well, this is fun, really interesting. So, we had the four monsters. They go back to the very battle site we had just in the previous episode. Great continuity here. Where, like, oh, is like Ben Canister on here or Miller? And then they're formed by the sumo wrestlers. Yes, they have sumo wrestlers here. Yeah, they get basically, they're very weak and they're there for comedy. And they're gone by episode 8. I have read the reason why. I'll get to that when I talk about that in the next episode. So, they basically go out and confront them at docks. Yep, confront them at the docks. So, we have Gamini fight him. And, of course, Metalder basically interrogates them. Oh, and by the way, his battle from episode 2, he has to get massive brain surgery in order to get himself fixed. Here is basically like, he asks some questions like, number 1, who's after him? God Necros. Why is he after him? Well, because he threats him. And he asks another question, where is he? And he does not say where he is, but he gets to fight it, and he gets beaten by, of course, Metalder, and the Torpedo Man blows himself up. Because that's what he wanted to do. And you're like, okay, so I guess there's a reason for that. Yep. So, and it's a similar what happened in episode 2, where even the monster was defeated. His boss is like, yeah, I'm going to take him back to your remodel. Maybe bring him back later. He comes back 2 more times after this before he's finally destroyed. Yep. But really good start for the series. Can't wait to discuss the rest because right now we got 4 down. 35 to go. Next up is a Comic Corner, and it's on the case close. See you next video. Bye. Oh, please sure to like, comment, subscribe, and turn notifications, and do not hit the dislike button, okay?